Hey guys, how's it going? I've got quarterbacks to start and sit in week four. First off, I like starting Jaden Daniels at the Cardinals this week. Daniels is coming off an electric Monday night football performance against the Bengals in week three, where he scored over 28 fantasy points. And with his ability to run and pass the football, he should put up plenty of points against a below average Cardinals defense that's allowing the 10th most points to opposing quarterbacks this season. Next up, I really like Baker Mayfield to get back on track this week against the Eagles. Mayfield had a rough game in week three, but he faces a Philadelphia defense that has allowed 40 touchdowns to opposing quarterbacks since week one of 2023. Mike Evans was questionable, but he was taken off the injury report on Friday, so Baker should have all of his weapons at his disposal, and I think he bounces back in this one. Lastly, my long shot pick of the week is Deshaun Watson against the Raiders. The Raiders are missing several key defensive players, including all-world edge rusher Max Crosby. So if Watson is ever going to make it happen with Cleveland, then he has to get it done this week. His career as an NFL starter may be over if the Browns fall to 1-3, so he has every incentive to show up for this one. I'm sitting Anthony Richardson this week against the tough Steelers defense. The Steelers have the best defense in the NFL as of right now. And while Richardson has shown the ability to make highlight reel throws, he has struggled to consistently hit the easy ones. I think he can bounce back at some point this season, but I don't expect it to come against that tough Steelers defense. Next up, I'm sitting Sam Darnold versus the Packers. Darnold has played great this season, and I think it's a great comeback story. But the Packers defense is quietly one of the better units in the league. They're allowing less than 14 points per game to fantasy passers on the season, and I like them to hold Darnold under 16 points in this one. And finally, I'm sitting Matthew Stafford against the Bears. The Bears are loaded on defense, and all of Stafford's game-changing receivers are hurt. That's not a good recipe for success for Stafford in week four.
These are my starts and sits at running back for week four. Start Zach Moss. Moss is coming off a great game in which he ran for a touchdown and caught 5 passes as well. He's going up against the Carolina Panthers this week, who have not been great against the run this season. I like Moss to have another big game this week as Cincinnati finally gets in the win column. Start Brian Robinson. Austin Eckler is going to be out, and he should have the backfield all to himself in Washington. This is a game where I'd expect him to get a lot of volume against the Cardinals. Game script shouldn't work against him as the Commanders should be able to keep it close, and I wouldn't be surprised if he scores a touchdown. Start Jerome Ford. The Raiders have been terrible versus the run this season, and this could be the week where the volume is finally there for Ford as the Raiders are dealing with a lot of injuries. The wild card, though, is that with the Browns, they might just throw it 50 times anyway to try to make Deshaun Watson look good. My long shot start for the week is Alexander Madison. The Browns have given up a rushing touchdown to a running back every game this year, and we know Madison is going to get the goal line work. So if you're desperate, roll the dice on Madison. Sit Travis Etienne. If you don't have better options, I understand, but the Jaguars haven't looked competitive at all this season, and I expect game script will be working against him this week as the Texans look to get back on track. Sit Ramondre Stevenson. Game script also will likely be working against him as the 49ers should blow out the Patriots this week. Stevenson's game relies on getting massive volume, and I'm just not sure if it'll be there. And finally, sit Javonte Williams. The Jets defense is very strong, and Williams couldn't get anything going in their surprising win last week. I wouldn't expect much from him in this one either.
Here are your starts and sits for the wide receiver position. These starts Nico Collin. Look for him to have a big bounce back game, and he is the clear top options for Texans offense. Next, Chris Godwin. He is Tampa Bay's number one wide receiver, and he's still being priced at a wide receiver number two. And that's a lot of mistakes that people are making. Look for him to just have a great game. And if it's daily, definitely plug him into your lineup. Next, we have Deontay Johnson, Panthers. As long as Andy Dalton's the quarterback, with his talent, he should be a viable starter. Plus, Adam Thielen is out. Finally, Khalil Shakir of the Bills. He has been just ascending, has great chemistry with Allen, and is their number one wide receiver. Your long shot for the week is Brian Thomas versus the Texans. Look for the Texans to cover Kirk so he can't go off, and Brian Thomas should be the top options then. Next, your sits. We have Justin Jefferson. I know he's not a hard sit. I'm just saying, look for him to not really reach his ceiling because the Green Bay Packers have a really good defense, and their secondary is the strongest part of it. And Jair has locked him down before. Next, Christian Kirk. of the Jaguars. Look for him to be locked on with Singletary of Houston, so that's why I really do like Thomas kind of going off for the Jags. Finally, Jalen Waddle, he is a must sit until Tua comes back, and even Hill is very questionable. I get it, no matter what, you start your big players that you know have that high ceiling, such as Hill, even Justin, like I talked, but if you can find other players, and especially in daily, do that.
For your tight end week 4 start sits, we are starting Mark Andrews. Yeah, I know I made a little joke on the waiver wire that we are going to be dropping him. However, he's going up against the Bills, and the Ravens, they're going to have to pass in order to keep up with the Bills. So I think this is the week that Mark Andrews finally shows up, and I hope he rides that momentum the rest of the season because I got him on some fantasy teams. We're also starting Tyler Conklin of the Jets versus the Broncos. He had 6 targets last week, and the Broncos defense is bang average. We're hoping that he can build on the targets last week. I know weeks 1 and 2 weren't the greatest target shares. He had 2 targets in each of those games, but the Jets, Aaron Rodgers, come on, let's roll with him. My long shot of the week is Zach Ertz of the Washington Commanders going up against the Cardinals. He's caught all but 1 target this year, ladies and gentlemen, and the Commanders' offense is starting to click. They're going to turn it up, and we are looking at Zach Ertz to be that dude. Sitting Mike Gesicki on the Bengals versus the Panthers. Yeah, he's been getting 6 targets per game, but he's only been in 33% of snaps where a tight end is in formation. It is not looking good. They have 2 backup tight ends that are taking up a lot of snaps, and Mike Gesicki could look to drop in play time, actually. We're also sitting Colby Parkinson of the Rams versus the Bears. The Bears D has only allowed 109 yards this season to tight ends, and it is not looking good for Colby Parkinson. I know Nakua and Kupp are gone, and they need to find guys to throw the ball to, but not against this Bears D. On to the defense for week 4 start sits. We're looking at the Cleveland Browns versus the Raiders. Raiders have 2 turnovers per game, and Cleveland is looking for a rebound. They do have talent on that defense, and I'm expecting the Browns to put up good defense. Matter of fact, I think this game is just going to be good defense, sloppy offense, because I'm also starting the Las Vegas Raiders. Cleveland has fumbled 5 times through 3 games, and Watson's thrown 2 interceptions. They're available in 75% of leagues, so good streaming option if you're looking for somebody. And the Raiders' pass defense has been pretty good. I expect this game to be sloppy. I expect there to be turnovers. I expect fantasy points for the defenses. My long shot, I'm looking at you, Seattle Seahawks versus the Lions. I know the Lions have a hot offense. Seahawks are quietly 3-0. They've only been giving up 14.3 points per game and only 249 total yards per game. They just held Miami to 3 points last week, and I expect them to have a decent game against the Lions offense. We are sitting the Cincinnati Bengals against the Carolina Panthers. I know this matchup is juicy, but the Bengals did not stop the Commanders a single drive last week. I mean, the Commanders were scoring field goals and touchdowns every drive. As a matter of fact, I think that game last week was the first game to not have any punts all season. And the Panthers last week, they were able to move the ball and score. They're going to be looking to build upon that momentum from last week, sitting Cincinnati Bengals.